Don't get nervous, but there are 5 scripture readings this morning. I'm going to handle them and they'll be abbreviated. And the first one, we begin in Genesis 16 because this is the first time an angel is mentioned in the Bible. And this sermon is going to be all about angels. So in Genesis 16, it's part of the Abraham and Sarah story. You might remember that Sarah had an Egyptian slave girl whose name was Hagar, and Abraham and Sarah had not had any children, and Sarah wanted children and so suggested to Abraham that she go and visit Hagar, and he did. And Hagar conceived, and when she conceived, she looked with contempt upon Sarah, and the two women got angry and were nasty to each other. There was conflict. And so Abraham said to Sarah, well, your slave girl is in your power. Do whatever you want with her. And Sarah dealt very harshly with Hagar, and Hagar ran away from her. And we read, the angel of the Lord found Hagar by a spring of water in the wilderness, and he said, Hagar, slave girl of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going? She said, I am running away from my mistress Sarah. The angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. I will so greatly multiply your offspring that they cannot be counted. Now you have conceived and shall bear a son. You shall call him Ishmael, for the Lord has given heed to your affliction. And we move now, as you can see, to the 4 Gospels. I wanted to have the first example of angel in the Gospels, and Mark is the earliest Gospel written, so I'm beginning in Mark 1. There's no birth story in Mark, so in chapter 1, we are following Jesus as he is baptized in the River Jordan by John, and we know that when he came up out of the water, the Spirit descended like a dove on him, and a voice came from heaven, you are my Son, the beloved, with you I am well pleased. And then we read, and the Spirit immediately drove Jesus out into the wilderness. In the wilderness, he was there for 40 days, tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild beasts, but angels came and helped him. Going to the Gospel of Luke next in the first chapter. And the start of the birth story here is with Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. And Zechariah was a priest, and both of them were very righteous before God, but they had no children either because Elizabeth was barren. And we read, once when Zechariah was chosen according to the custom of the priesthood to enter the sanctuary of the Lord and offer incense, there appeared to Zechariah an angel of the Lord standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was terrified and fear overwhelmed him. But the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will name him John. You will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. And indeed, as we know, John the Baptist, their child, was great in the sight of the Lord. Matthew, first chapter. Matthew has a birth story. And we read, now the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save people from their sins. And finally, we come to the Gospel of John. Again, in John, there is no birth story, and we actually do not find an angel until chapter 5 in John. And we read, "Near the sheep gate in Jerusalem, there is a pool called in Hebrew Bethzatha. Some translations read Bethesda, which has 5 porticos. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed, waiting for the water in the pool to move. For every now and then an angel of the Lord went down to the pool and stirred up the water, and whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was healed from whatever disease that person had." As I said, we're going to talk about angels this morning. And you know, angels as we know them today come in all shapes and sizes. You can find them cute, some of them cuddly, some playing harps, some blowing kisses, some praying with their hands folded in prayer. And as I can tell, though, there's just one universal feature among the many angels that have been painted and sculptured and manufactured and sold in our stores. They have wings. And many, but not all, are dressed in white. Some have halos. Most are female, and most have human faces and features, although I have seen angels appearing in animal form at times. But at this time of the year, there is no shortage of angels among us. They hover in the shop windows. They adorn the top of our Christmas trees. We sing of them in our many Christmas carols. Angels. Angels? What are angels anyway? We've grown up with them. We hear about them. We hear them in the Bible stories. We take it for granted that they are a part of the holiday season, but what are they really? And are they real? Do we take them seriously? Well, 70% of us say that we believe in angels. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. I'm going to assume there's at least 70% of you out there, and 30% skeptics and non-believers. But you know, you can pick up an increasing amount of magazines and books where readers describe experiences with what they perceive are guardian angels, helping them, warning them, saving them. And this may be hard to believe, but 1 in 7 of us claim to have had a personal encounter with an angel. Anyone here brave enough to raise their hand if they think they've had an encounter with an angel? Well, I don't know if it's 1 in 7, but we've got some of us. So my hopes for this sermon are really quite simple, that none of us will ever again be able to look at an angel ornament or sing an angel song or read a biblical account of an angel's presence without pausing for a moment to reflect on the beauty, the wonder, the mystery of what they might represent. You know, many people, particularly hospice and oncology nurses and their patients, report experiencing a sense of calm, peace, even visions of angels, visions of departed loved ones during the end-of-life care. These experiences are personal, they're spiritual in nature, so they can't really be authenticated or proven by physical proof. Yet 1 in 7 of us claim to have had a personal encounter with an angel. In both Hebrew and Greek, the word angel means messenger. Angels are messengers sent from God. John Calvin described them as, quote, regarding our safety, directing our ways, undertaking our defense, and exercising a constant solicitude that no evil befall us. In Martin Luther's theology, an angel is a spiritual creature without a body, created by God for the service of Christendom and the church. I especially like Unitarian Universalist ministers Forrester's Church's descriptions of angels. He says they are little epiphanies of the divine amidst the ordinary. The Old and New Testament let us know that the presence of an angel is usually a startling event, unexpected, usually disorienting to the recipient, often cause for fear and trembling. The Bible also tells us that sometimes angels may come to us well disguised. The book of Hebrews is quite right in suggesting that some of us have been with angels and been totally unaware. The history of virtually every nation and culture reveals at least some belief in angelic beings. Almost every religion has some form of intermediary commuting back and forth between human beings and the divine. That is why we depict angels with wings. We imagine these messengers must be doing an awful lot of flying between heaven and earth. But you know, the inclusion of wings in our descriptions of angels may say more about us than the nature or characteristics of angels. We have limited knowledge of angels, that is true. We are unable to scientifically prove their existence. So the more skeptical among us may very well say they do not exist. But I personally believe that people have written of angelic activity for centuries because something has been happening. Something has touched us, something has affected us, something powerful and life-changing. You know, often in religion we speak of our searching for God, our seeking God. But for those who believe in angels, we speak of God searching for us, God seeking us, God coming to us and speaking to us in all kinds of ways, many of which we do not understand. Yet some people have trouble with that. Lily Tomlin asks, why is it that when we talk to God, we are said to be praying, and yet when God talks to us, we are said to be schizophrenic? Well, there is a rich angelic tradition that is ours to inherit. We see winged creatures coming from heaven depicted in the Euphrates Valley as early as 2500 BC. We see winged creatures in Egyptian tombs who appear to be the angels of death, enfolding the sleeping subjects in their wings. Angels have been called gods, sons of gods, and I say sons intentionally because angels have overwhelmingly been designated as male, and there are no female angels identified in our Bible whatsoever. I guess that's to be expected. I'm not going to say any more than that. And angels may be beyond sexual identity. Islamic scholars have proposed that at least 2 angels are assigned to each person, and they are to be greeted daily as one participates in one's prayer life. In Western folklore, we find that freckles are called angel kisses. So, depending on how many freckles you have, and if you have a lot, you may have been extremely blessed and kissed by the angels. Angels have been counted and named in our Judeo-Christian tradition. They are mentioned nearly 300 times in the Bible. Psalm 68 records that 20,000 of them were seen in the skyways. Deuteronomy tells of 10,000 angels present on Mount Sinai as Moses received the law. Angels appear as ordinary men. We might remember the story of Abraham being visited by men who were bearing news that Sarah would finally have a child. And an angel later stopped Abraham from sacrificing this same child. Jacob wrestled with an angel all night long, a turning point in his life. culminated in a blessing and a new name for him, the name of Israel. Angels come to the aid of the faithful in the Old Testament. 3 saintly men are saved in the fiery furnace. Daniel is kept safe in the lion's den. And angels, of course, are prominent in the story of Jesus, announcing his birth, addressing the shepherds. Later, they strengthen him in temptation and in the garden. Angels bear tidings to the disciples after his death. Angels do not call attention to themselves. Their mission seems to be fourfold: to bring praise to God, to serve as God's messengers of love by relaying good news, to watch over God's people, and sometimes to be the instruments of God's judgment. Angels have been given higher knowledge, higher power, higher mobility than we humans, it appears. They perform works of righteousness. They have bridged the centuries. They carry messages of revelation. They provide ministry. They sustain and lift the spirits of many flagging and weary saints. They change hopeless circumstances into bright prospects. Please note that angels have been taken seriously by theologians, philosophers, and yes, even scientists. Angelology has been a serious study among Jewish, Christian, and Islamic scholars. Angels are named, ranked, otherwise categorized. Scholars of the Middle Ages had heated debates regarding what they are made of, whether they are eternal, whether they have free will, whether or not they think, eat, drink, and make love. I don't know what all the results of those studies were, but I do know this: it's hard work to figure out what angels are. Okay, the 30% of you out there, the skeptics, I'm talking to you now, because you're saying to me, come on, Janet, we don't live in the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages. We're enlightened now. We know better than to think we can or should study angels and take all this angel stuff seriously. Sure, they can be a nice image and all, but rationally, scientifically, intellectually, well, we know better. Yes, I guess we believe in angels like we believe in Santa Claus. But they make little difference in our daily lives. Albert Einstein once said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, he is as good as dead. His eyes are closed." That was Albert Einstein speaking. Strange and unusual things happen in this world, things way beyond our ability to understand. People have told me they have been visited by angels. They call it a miracle. Who are we to argue with someone about that? Life is beyond our perceiving. God is beyond our perceiving. But hopefully all of us here would welcome a divine messenger who comes to help give us a glimpse, a hint of understanding. Messengers and messages come in many forms, and angels have been said to appear as voices, dreams, signs, visions, other people, even other animals. An angel can be the healing voice of life itself, speaking to us and beckoning us to stop and listen. People who claim to have had encounters with angels have lasting memories, strong convictions after their experience of receiving what we might call a message from God. One woman describes it, "We do not know where it is coming from, but we know how it comes, surrounded by light, crashing over us with total conviction, and that it is different from our usual thoughts and experiences." So why do some of us hear from angels and not others? We can get confused, even angry, because if there are indeed angels among us, they appear to be very selective in their work. I ask, where was my cousin Linda's guardian angel the night she was killed by a drunk driver? How is it decided whose plane will crash, whose son or daughter will get killed in war? Who will be visited by an angel and who will not? Today is the 13th anniversary of the tragic shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary. And we might ask very easily, where were the angels? And if there are angels, where are they today? Because unfortunately, children the world over are still neglected, harmed, starving, victims of war and terrorists. These are very tough questions. I hope you don't think I have the answers, because I don't. But I trust in a divine plan that is beyond our knowing. And this I do know: our religion fails us if it does not inspire in us a sense of the awe at the wonder of being, the acceptance of the mystery of it all. It fails us if it makes no place for the Christmas story in the deepest recesses of our hearts and minds. That's right, the Christmas story, the adventure into the land where angels appear and a bright star guides travelers. The Christmas story asks us to believe in miracles. It dares us to set aside our rational minds for a while. It awakens us to new possibilities and realities. The Christmas angels are still among us to assure us not to be afraid of this adventure we call life, but to allow the love and mystery of all of it into our hearts. And if we do, we may find that great joy come to us and to all the people. So, I guess we all will ask ourselves the questions: what messengers from God will we open our hearts and minds to? Will we allow an angel to touch us, to awaken us from a living sleep, to open our eyes to a deeper understanding of what it means to be alive? Angels have a tough task. We allow them readily onto our trees, but not so readily into our hearts. They have to find ways to break through our toughened shells of routines and closed-mindedness and those who think they already know it all. But let us never get so busy counting the demons in our lives that we forget about the holy angels. They are still among us, praising God, letting us know that we are blessed in the tasks that we are called to do, and blessed in the burdens that we are asked to bear. Forrester Church has also written, like God, angels are beyond proof, at least in the scientific sense of the term. And at this point, I want to ask the AV group if they would put up that next slide for me. I don't know if you can see it well, but what it lets us know is that we humans can only see light in a small range of frequencies, and we can only perceive sounds in limited range. These ranges are just a tiny fraction of the full spectrum of light and sound, meaning that much of what exists is entirely invisible to us. But just because we cannot see something with our eyes or hear something with our ears, it does not mean that it does not exist. Angels might very well exist, but once we start arguing about whether angels exist, we probably have already missed the point. The point involves what they do. Angels awaken us to the wonder, the mystery of being, laughing when we take ourselves too serious, surprising us with the beauty of their strangeness, knocking on our doors to deliver messages of death and birth. They are salt when we lose our savor, joy and pain when we've forgotten how to feel. And angels are not for another time or another place, or just for Bible stories or Christmas ornaments. Angels are a way for us to awaken to the mystery of life and renew our faith that indeed God has messages for us right now and right here. The angels on that first Christmas night sang of hope and peace and goodwill. They are still singing. Our task and our joy is to listen for their songs above the noise and the darkness of our time. The star of Christmas shines as soon as it is dark enough, and the angels sing as soon as we are quiet enough.